Hello, everybody. This is Mayor Pedro, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to be online, basically, and to share some responses to whatever your questions are, and also to share with you things about myself and my job as mayor and my policy approaches and the things that we're doing in the city of Hartford. We've gotten questions. We'll try through it as we can, of course, online and ask any questions to get to all of them. Just a little bit about myself. I was born in Puerto Rico, in a small town, Maricao. Then we were larger in Puerto Rico. But at age 8, I moved to New York City. I been in Hartford since I was about 15 years old. Came here from New York City. One of the reasons, or the main reasons that I came here, was that during that period of time there was a lot of violence in the South Bronx. And having lost my father when I was about a year old due to gun violence, it made me very fearful. And I also knew that I wanted to go and have a career. And I just felt that that was impossible given the circumstances that I had back in New York City, the South Bronx. During my lifetime, I had many great experiences, but also had my share of challenges and experiences that I think have made me the person that I am today. I had the good privilege of having some great grandparents, great family support, but also had the experiences of being homeless. Growing up in poverty, also know what it is to experience hunger, to experience homelessness, to fight hard, get work, to be able to work. But I think that all these experiences have been very important in my life in terms of things that motivated me to go into social work, to go into law, but also things that make me have a high sensitivity, compassion, and approach to basically the poor communities, and Hartford having a large community that lives in poverty. I don't have to take a training or a sensitivity course in terms of what people in my city go through, because I've been through many of these similar experiences. I do value education. I think that it's through education that I've been able to lift myself up and be able to provide for myself. Also, the skills that I've learned through an education to also be helpful to our community. So my main focus during the years that I've been in office and working with the city council has been education and to work to combat crime. One of the priorities that we have, I think that education is really the key in our city. What can we uplift our kids, our children, for more productive careers? But anyway, we have worked very hard in these areas. We have significantly increased. I have worked in partnership with others. I don't take total responsibility for it, but creating partnerships, increase our graduation rates have been something that's been a priority, and also to continue to leverage so that more of our kids, more of our youth can go on to college, come back into our community, and help us work towards resolving some of the challenges that we have, but also to have careers so that our families self-sustaining. One of the questions, and we have several, I'll just mix them up a little bit. First question is, Hartford has often been mismanaged. As a candidate for mayor, what management experience do you have, and how will you use these skills? How do these skills help you to be the mayor of Hartford? You know, one of the things that I've learned is that the job of mayor is a very complex job, of many challenges, especially in a city like Hartford. So I draw from a lot of experiences. During college, my major was political science, public administration, and I think that through that training we learned a lot about the structure of government, the relationship of local governments to the state and the federal government, and also the legislative processes by which laws are made. So that was very important undergraduate college experiences that I've had. During my master's program, I was in social work organization. During these courses in community organization, we learned a lot about labor unions. We learned a lot about, especially how communities of poverty have basically been the result of a lot of oppression, a lot of things that have basically kept the disenfranchised community in a situation that's very different, and the approach to resolving many of these challenges, which have taken decades, the challenges of being very an activist person. In law school, also you learn a lot about different laws, labor law, administrative law, all the different types of laws and things that are in place that one, as an official manager, would need to know in order to manage. As an attorney, I had this for over 25 years. I always had to make sure the office paid the staff on time. Knock on wood. I was always able to make payroll. I was always and make sure that the clients got the best service they can get. Then I worked for a while as the city's corporation counsel. I did that for about 3 terms, about 4 years, 5 years. And that really gave me a really good insight into the structure of city government, into the workings of the department, into the issues associated with staff, the issues associated with taxation, issues related to the relationship of our local government, again, with our state and our federal government. Our city is a municipal corporation, and as such, it's very important that you understand all the different intricate components of city government, because as corporation counsel, you're the person that basically defends the legal interests of the city. You defend the city against lawsuits, and you also lawsuits against others when it's in the interest of our city. But I think that the best management experience comes from my 5 years as mayor. As I said, it is a complex job. You have new situations that arise, and you learn from these experiences. And you these experiences to make sure that the city progresses along. One of the things, for example, is understanding the financial management of the city. One of the things that I did when I was on council is I chaired the Operations Management and Budget Committee, and that committee basically is the one that is in charge of the finances of the city, from the point of view that you're responsible for creating the budget and approving of those on the council. And also, as mayor, you get to collaborate and work with other mayors. And I belong to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I started out as a member of the U.S. Conference of Members. Then I served on the advisory board. On the advisory board, I was then elected executive trustee. And as mayors, you get to share the best practices. So I've been doing that for 5 years. So a lot of the initiatives that we have started in Hartford, many of those are borrowed from other cities. And we, in turn, have also shared with my mayor colleagues different management approaches and also initiatives that we have had so that other cities can learn from us. Our early childhood programs have been something that we have shared with other cities, as well as our summer youth employment training programs, which have now evolved for a full-year internship program. So management experience, I would say, is very strong. I think that all these different experience, having been on a city council, helps you in your management. Having been a chair of the Operations Management and Budget Committee helps you also in that. Having been council president, but more significantly, having been mayor, you learn from your successes, but you'll learn from mistakes you might make along the way. So say mistakes. So that's basically the response to that question. Um, let's see. This one here says, I never really understood the role of mayor. So could you describe your average day of mayor looks like? Um, average day. Well, the role of the mayor basically is to serve as the chief executive officer for the city, and that's the primary job. In terms of the average day, very long days, some longer than others, but there's no such thing as an 8-hour day. Most of the days are 14, 16, 18, 20-hour days. Usually start very early in the morning with the office, try to go over the day's agenda, which usually involves a lot of meetings with directors, with our chief officer, Darrell Hill, different department heads at times, uh, meeting with many community agencies. So there's a lot of meetings. Also, I serve on numerous boards. I serve on the Board of Education. I serve on the CRDA board. And that's another thing that we do that's very important because we want to be able to bring the city's interest to these boards and vice versa, make sure that we communicate. A lot of planning sessions, a lot of program development, a lot of meeting with constituents and constituent groups. I try to attend. Uh, we have 17 NRZs, so I try to go sit during the course of the year, meet the different NRZs to make sure that we take in the different problems, concerns, issues. Um, I'm also as now that I'm in an election cycle, I've had to do a lot of debates, a lot of interviews, a lot of some fundraising, of course. We have to raise money for the campaign. But primarily, I'm taking to my mayor duties. We've had a couple of very difficult months, the last couple of months with an increase in homicides, something that has been occurring not just in Hartford, but with many other cities in the Northeast and around the nation. So we're going to be going to the White House, I believe, next week in order to be part of a multi-city panel to discuss this situation that we're having in our city. Partner up with the federal government. They want to be helpful. The president put together a forum on 21st century policing, and there's been a lot of good recommendations that we got as a result of that. So working with our federal delegation is also part of what's in the schedule. For example, we've done a lot of work with Congressman Larson around Cokesville, the national park. We've done stuff around immigration. We've done stuff with transportation. That's ongoing work that's going on, trying to improve our transportation infrastructure. So during the day, you have a lot of meetings, a lot of meeting with people, a lot of planning. Occasionally, make sure that I've been mayor for 5 years, and each and every year we've had to make sure that of the year that you maintain that balance. Your finances, your revenues are coming in, and that all your obligations are being met. Um, scheduling. Things change when we have public emergencies. Um, at that point, your mayor's job basically becomes uh, protecting the public safety and the public welfare. So when we have storms, that 16, 18, 20-hour day becomes a 24-hour day. And we've had some situations where we actually go several days without sleeping because there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. I want to make sure that we protect our residents. Some incredible, serious blizzards, and knock on wood, again, we've not suffered, that I can remember, any loss of life as a result of these very serious weather events, storms, blizzards, hurricanes, snowstorms in October, and that's something that I think I'm very proud of. Situations of emergency there, I have felt very responsible for maintaining public safety and keeping our citizens safe. And that's something that is very so. That's basically an average day. Very few vacations, if any. I missed those days when I was in private practice, and actually take one, two vacations. That doesn't seem to happen anymore. But it's a job that I love. It's a job that I like to do, and I love public service. I love community. So even though it's a busy schedule, it's one that I accept willingly, and it's a job that I really enjoy. Move on to another question. What do you think are some of the largest obstacles Hartford is facing, and how are you addressing them? Um, we have as a city that's very high level of poverty. Obviously, there's a lot of a lot of challenges. But I think in terms of obstacles, the word that the person who asked the questions has written, um, obviously we need to improve education, and obviously we need to promote job growth. Obviously, we need to do more in terms of improving list. The obstacles are, we are a municipality, and Connecticut has a system of all the towns sort of living very isolated from each other. We are in a city that has a 52, almost 50, 51 point something percent of our property tax exempt. And even with significant growth, we will never be able to produce revenue that we need in order to provide a significant improvement in staffing and the investments that we would need. So we obviously can't do it on our own. And one of the obstacles, basically, large tax exemption rate in the city. Obviously, we're supposed to get a pilot payment, but we get a very small portion of that from the state. Creates a challenge. So I would say one of the obstacles is this reform, what is a very aggressive tax system, a progressive tax system that really doesn't strangle our cities. And it's not just Hartford, it's New Haven, Bridgeport, a lot of other cities that have a lot of tax exempt properties that basically are put to use towards servicing a broader region. We have major hospitals here that just don't service Hartford, they service a larger region. And we don't get a sufficient pilot payment for that. So I would say that just the taxing structure itself presents a big obstacle. The other obstacles that we face is how to, under these very limited resources, improve significantly the system. I've always been a proponent that education is a matter of state constitutional law, and we have a very unfair system of funding education, and that's been accentuated, creating a whole system of education where we have some schools that receive a lot of funding, and community schools and other schools that receive a much lower level of funding. So we need to continue to advocate and create better funding for our schools, so that all the children in our system, regardless of what community they're in, gets quality education. So that's another obstacle that we need to fight for, and that's educational funding. Another challenge is job growth. Obviously, in order to have job growth, you have to have an economy, but more importantly, you have to have the supports in place from the state and in the federal government that promote this job growth. And there we're having challenges in terms of how do we improve a transportation system that was created a while back that really served to sort of disconnect our city and alienate parts of our cities. So that's an obstacle that we're going to be working on. The governor has gone a long ways in terms of producing a budget that would create a much larger pool of transportation dollars. We're going to continue to work with the state, continue to work with the federal government. As mayor, I work with other mayors to advocate for federal transportation bill that really puts the resources into our cities so that we can really reconfigure these transport to be able to expand our economy. Um, Cities and I think that the better that our transportation system is, the better that our needs and our job growth potential will be, because goods and services and people are able to around more efficiently. Um, I mentioned crime. Obviously, crime does have an impact in our ability to attract tourism and attract businesses. It impacts the quality of life. We had a very good 5 years of year reducing crime. As I mentioned, something that's not just in Hartford, but many other cities experienced a spike around the month of April and May that was unprecedented as compared to previous years. The challenge with this is that year over year we went down in crime for about 5 years. So at some point, competing against your own record. When I became mayor, I don't know, the number of homicides was much higher, and the number of shootings was much higher, and we worked to bring that down. And as you have an increase in succeeding year, because you're comparing us to a previous year, then the number of the increase seems much larger. But you know, statistics are statistics. I mean, the bottom line is that one life that is lost in our community, one person that is shot, one person that is injured or the victim of violence is one person too many. And I think that in terms of facing that, we are on the right track in terms of having a lot of initiatives that really could improve the quality of life for residents. We are working on supporting a My Brother's Keeper initiative, and that's meant to help especially our youth to not take the path of crime and provide more supports, more encouragement, and more resources so that our youth, most especially our youth, are taken away from a life of crime and have other options. In the North End, we have the Hartford North Hartford Promise. It was a federal designation that we received from the White House, from the Obama administration. We were only one of six small number of cities across the country, the only one city in New England to receive this designation. And the focus of that is to basically create job growth and also work on our education system for this area and also on safety. And it also has a health component. And what we're going to be doing, basically, there's no direct appropriation to the city. We at the local level appropriated about $250,000 to help structure and support the initiative. We have one federal employee that will come and assist in guiding us through the process. And I just came from a celebration of VISTA Volunteers AmeriCorps celebrating their 50th anniversary. And we will get 5-time AmeriCorps workers that will come in to also support that initiative. The goal is to work with many agencies that have already come together to support this initiative in the North End. The objective is to apply for as many federal grants, because we will be giving priority for those grants, and those grants will be deployed to work on job growth, education, public safety, health issues, quality of life issues for this particular community, which has the highest level of poverty in the United States. It's a very good opportunity for Hartford. So far, the state of Connecticut and our legislative delegation was very successful, along with our bench, in providing $4 million that will be deployed to this Promise Zone. And we will work in partnership with CRDA, which is through which the monies will be funneled in order to use that $10 million strategically and wisely, so that the objectives that are set forth in that Promise Zone application can be materialized. So obstacles as opportunities, as challenges for us to join together. As I said, most of what we have accomplished during my amendment by creative in early childhood education, whether it's in uh, uh, working with our faith-based communities and other stakeholders, peace builders, Hartford Community Cares, Mothers United Against Violence. I think that when we all band together as a community and join together, that really gives us the best opportunity to overcome these obstacles. I am a great team builder. I think that I have been very effective bringing people and organizations together. We started with our Opportunities Hartford initiative, which had short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives. And now with the Promise Zone and other initiatives, we will continue to move forward. Let me just take another question. Uh, what have you, this one, what have you done in order to increase mobility? We still have a lot of poverty. What have you done in order to create more sufficient, self-sufficient persons? That's the question. Um, I started out by pointing the value of education, the fact that I think that education for me is a very significant part of being able to move and lift our community forward. Education, getting our youth to break that cycle is very important. For me, this is an effort that needs to start as early as possible. We have some very good, uh, have a MIA program that's been working very efficiently to make sure that those expecting mothers receive, who are at risk, the best care so that we limit possibility of children having to deal with the effects of not getting the proper prenatal care that the moms need, which could impact our children in different ways. Having said that, we've done significant work and improvement on reducing teenage pregnancy in our city, and we got a federal grant that we have been to work to reduce teenage pregnancy in our city. I think there's been significant decreases in teenage pregnancy, and I think that that's something that's very, very important in terms of really creating the initial circumstances to at least avoid some of the problems that we've had in the past. There is also a component of early learning. And early learning is very important because the problem that we had repeatedly, decade after decade, is that our children were not getting early learning programs sufficiently so as to build their vocabulary and really have them more prepared when they enter kindergarten. And through those programs, I think that we've done a really excellent job. Dr. Jose Colon Rivers is nationally recognized and leads our departments of families, children, youth, and recreation, and really build up programs that have served as a model for other programs in other cities, and even led to the creation, which we advocate for, a state office of early education. To get our children more healthy, more ready to really get a good start. That's significantly. Now we know that the job doesn't start there. We know that children are not reached by grade level by the time they are in third grade. Really impact significantly their ability to graduate from high school. So at the Board of Education, the primary goal now is the issue of equity, making sure that all schools have a quality education. And I know that that's it's an aspiration, but it's a worthwhile one because we need to have equity. And in addition to education, the social program that we can have for our community, as was said by President Clinton, is a job. People who are employed, who earn a decent wage, they're gonna succeed. They're gonna succeed. They're gonna be able to have pride working for their money and not having this feeling that something is being handed to them. It's good for self done in order to decrease poverty in our city is to generate enough of a development in our city so that we can have more construction jobs. The process build more venues for small businesses. Downtown North is a perfect example of this. Uh, UConn School of Economic Policy did a study about downtown North. They said that it would add significant value to the city of Hartford in terms of many millions in terms of revenue for a city. At the height of the program, it will be about 1,800 jobs. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to make people self-sufficient. We have a great library advantage from the program. Anything that would supplement the incomes of our family. I'm going to move on to the next question. The next question is, could you provide an update on the Lyric Theater, the Park Street branch, arts components? The Lyric Theater located on Park Street, it's clear that generationally has accommodated many immigrant communities and that has been an entertainment place. For many decades, that particular theater has been empty. And we finally were able to work with the library, work with the community. There's a librarian there who's very vested in the library and really is a great advocate. Letty is her name. And I think we have basically a opportunity. We've appropriated the money. The designs are being worked on as we speak. Initially, it's going to be, and I don't want to get the square foot wrong, but it was going to be about 9,000 to 10,000 for the library. Looks like a familiar question. Actually, it comes from Luisa Gardo Cotto, which is her council person, colleague of mine, who has an interest in this particular branch. So we're doing the plans, and I thank you, Liz, for that question. The plans are, we have the bonding approved. I believe it's $12 million. We expect to break ground very, very soon. The plans, as I said, been worked on. The part of the question is there any arts component? We acquired the property in the corner next to the Lyric. And the reason for that was to volumize and expand the library. But the merchants and the community was also very interested in that the storefront would be utilized for some commercial type of venue that will complement those four corners, because the crucial intersection, Park and Broad Streets. I think the plan is to do something that cafe style gathering place, something similar to the component that's at the downtown library, where people could use the venue to folks to do restaurant sort of cafe hospitality sort of training, and we could work together as we do with Billings Forge on that component, and we can also work. They have a gardening component. By the way, there's some possibility of a gardening component on the rooftop of the library. There's space there that you could do that. So in terms of a theater or arts component, the plan is to use the first floor to house the offices and the library and the computer centers and some meeting places, and then to use the top floor for an open, potentially black shadow theater component where we can have artistic presentations, poetry, So this program it's due, and it's good to see that it's finally happened. As you know, Louis, there's a lot of things that were on the planning books for a long time in the city, and we're finally getting to see a lot of that stuff done. Coltsville, for example, and the designation of a national park, uh, making sure that we bring professional sports venues to our cities. So this is just one of those other projects that really needs to happen and needs to happen very, very, very quickly. So thank you for your question. We have a question. Um, uh, Andrew Dova sends a question. Are you ever going to have the public meeting that you promised to have on the spike in violence? You know, we have been having a lot of meetings. I do want to have one back from DC. We do a broader based meeting, but we want this to be a constructive meeting from the different stakeholders in terms of allowing for participation, of broader participation. Um, I think this question comes into in relations to the meetings that we did have at City Hall that weren't open to the media, the press. When we had the spike in violence in the city, I wanted to have a conversation with community leaders and religious leaders, and I wanted to provide an environment that was safe, not uh, would be conducive to people speaking freely. We didn't know whether people had information about particular uh, gang activities or anything that they wanted to convey to be done in a safe environment. After the meeting, we went out to the press and basically the main things that we had discussed. Things came out of that meeting. One of the things was summer youth employment. Many of you know that our city was cut this year by the state about $6.5 million. And unfortunately, you know, $6.5 million is a lot of money when we basically, after we pay all of our legal obligations, our pensions, our legal mandates, really needs to has an impact on our city in terms of all its different programming. So yes, we'll have the meeting. We'll get more people involved. It'll be an open forum. But I want it to be a constructive meeting. I think that we need people to come in with help with solutions. And I think that it's important that we also use that meeting as a way to get information that we need to effectively deploy our community policing initiative. One of the things that I would have done was to increase the size of the police class. As you all might know, the size of our police force has been shrinking, a lot of retirements, and we're very limited, especially when we get this level of cuts, to really, without significantly raising our taxes, to be able to provide for these services. But I think that we're headed in a good direction. I'm having a lot of conversations with our chief. Um, uh, again, through these meetings, the meetings that we did have, we were able to get the chief to indicate how funding for the police department needs to be prioritized in terms of staffing up to meet these challenges. So we'll meet and we'll be able to consider more. I have another thing here. Uh, when is the municipal ID program starting, and what is it? When will it work? The municipal ID program is an initiative that it's not new. It's been done in New Haven. It's been done in New York City, San Francisco. What it does is it seeks to provide a municipal identification card to many people who do not have identification. Some don't have it because their legal status is not yet determined. People are caught in that as a result of the lack of action by the government in terms of having some comprehensive. Many people are here and they just don't have any municipal IDs. to take care of the undocumented folks that are in the city, that would be very helpful. We have a lot of folks that are homeless, that have lost things, and we need to provide a system for these folks who are homeless and looking for housing, an ID. It's very important in terms of accessing services. And then we have a lot of folks who are either in the custody of DCF. A lot of youth could benefit from this I program. The point of the program is to enable folks to clearly identify who they are. It allows them also the opportunity to be able to access services and other services, whether it's borrowing privileges at Alliance, opening banking services. Some of these programs are being expanded so that they can have a banking component to it, and that way people who open a bank account will be able to have the opportunity to have a bank account. Next question is about police and relationships and the distrust and police brutalities. What are you doing in order to be able to resolve issues? So we have seen in many parts of the countries and even in Hartford situations where the community feels that there is a breakdown in police officer relationships with the community, allegations of police abuse, allegations that often create this distrust that this person speaks about. I think what we're trying to do in terms of building that trust is we really need to create a diverse police force that mirrors more the makeup of the community. I think that having a community that work for the police force is very important. I think that it helps to bridge linguistic differences. It helps to bridge cultural differences. And we create a program, a public safety academy, public safety initiative. And we started, last year we had 30 students and we did a test pilot of it. This year we're expanding that and we're having 45 young people who want to be firefighters, who want to be police officers, so that they can get a foundation, a feel for what it is to be a firefighter, what it is to be a police officer, what it is to be an emergency telecommunications officer, in order to create a pipeline so that in the future we have young people from Hartford who live in Hartford be the ones that are recruited into the police, fire, and emergency communications. Students are exposed for a period of about 6 to 7 weeks to different activities of the department. They get to have hands-on experiences with these departments, and they also learn everything from life-saving skills, forensics, a lot of different components that are meant to develop interest, but also to help these young people explore if these are careers that they want to pursue. Then it's a matter of maintaining them throughout their high school years. This is a partnership between CREC, Hartford Public Schools, our police and fire department, so that they can continue these youngsters on a career path towards being future members of our police. We've always had a problem with recruitment, and if we can gradually take these youth from being in the Public Safety Academy and then explore cadets working for us, actually they will be the payroll, and it's a lot easier just to promote them into the academy for firefighters or for the police department. Now there is a issue, and that is that in order to be a police officer you have to be 21. So there's a critical 2-year period, 3-year period between high school and being able to be in the academy. And what we're going to do is we're working with Capital Community College and Manchester Community College to provide for a continuation of that training, of that academy, economy, so they can not only agree, but be better able to service our communities. I mean, policing is a challenging job, and I think that the more education that our youth have, and our future cadets have, and our future explorers, and eventually police officers have, the more professional they can be, and the more skills they have to meet the challenges of policing. Thing that needs to be done, and things that we did recently, at least went to some of the work that was done at the mayor's forum on policing is when we have an incident that involves a situation that brings alarm or concern to a community, that involves an interaction with a police officer and a civilian, to be able to put out all the information very quickly. I think the community feels a lot of frustration that oftentimes when one incident occurs, whether it's a tasering incident or allegation of abuse, that the police department initiates an investigation, and it's months before the reports or the investigation comes out. What we have done is when we have one of these incidents, I've instructed the chief and is willing to do this and wants to do this, is to put out as much information, whether it's 911 calls, any videos, any recordings that we have, any information that we have about the officer. Does that officer have a previous record of complaints or disciplinary action? I think this is the type of information the community wants to hear, and they want to hear it as soon as possible after an incident and not months later. I think that that's what other cities have failed, because and there's a lot of resentment. The other part involves training for our police officers and make sure that we are able to provide the best training. This chief has been great in terms of police conduct, and I mentioned that part of the reason that we have a lower number of police officers, because some of these officers have been disciplined and have been of their obligation, responsibilities from the department in situations that is warranted. Just a little bit of water. This one says, what makes you any different from your other opponents? Why should voters pick you over anyone else that is running for the office? Well, I have been in the city for 41 years. Some of my opponents have a much shorter period of residency in the city. I think that you need to be very familiar with the communities and the people that you serve. You need to have the cultural sensitivity towards the people that you serve. You need to have the cultural competency that you need to serve the people of this city. I have been on the city council. I have been a council president, OMB chair. I have been in the office for 5 years. I recognize the challenges. I don't need to train for this job. I've been doing it. I think that we have seen changes in the city that are unprecedented in terms of the growth. We have a lot of new things that have come to our city. A national park, UConn is building a branch in our city. We have about 1,200 units that are currently being built in our city. I've been able to work with SOTA, with our Department of Development Services, with the state, with the developers, with the state agencies, whether it's to do the traffic studies necessary or whatever requirements need to be met. I've done the job, and I think that that itself separates me from my challengers. I also think that I have a track record. I mean, during my tenure, graduation rates have increased significantly. During my tenure, We have been able to stabilize the mill rate, which is a challenge to be able to provide all of the services. At times, we've had to make some cutbacks in order not to increase the tax burden, but we've been able to do that. Now, obviously, one of the criticisms is that we've had to sell some assets some parking assets, in order to be able to meet our obligation. But the options would have been to increase the mill rate. Um, the options would have been to get more state support in our funding, more more pilot assistance, which we've not received to the extent that we should have. So, I think we we recently did take a um, uh, decrease in our bond rating one notch on one of the rating agencies. There's two rating agencies, Standard and Poor's and Moody's. Um, uh, uh, One of the rating agencies, we kept our bond rating at the same level. The other rating agency that increased us by one notch. During my time as mayor, we've seen the ratings go up, and census, we've seen them go down. Um, Reasons why the bond rating agency cited as generating a one-notch downward on our bond rating was the use of one-time revenue sources in order to balance our book. Um, Other option to have done that would have been to basically increase taxes, and I think that the city council who approved the sale of these garages as the way to go. These weren't decisions that I made solely on my own. We do still have a city council form of government. We agreed that we were not going to increase taxes. The tax burden is very high. Strangely enough, bond rating agencies also cites the high mill rate as the reason for the downgrade. So it's you can't have it both ways. The state itself is suing, I think, one of the bond rating agencies because they differ with some of the things that they do in terms of these ratings. But I think that we still have a very good credit rating. That's what's important. We're still able to borrow at a low cost. So I think that that's something that's very important. Um, Hartford says Hartford has high poverty rate. So how does this profile? Um, well, I think that we do have a very high level of poverty in our city, but we do have a lot of opportunity. Um, I don't know if people have been following some of the media articles and some of the reports that have been done, that Hartford is still a very attractive place for young professionals to live because we have very high salaries for young professionals for the positions that are available, that are specialized positions. Lower cost of housing. So in terms of, in spite of a higher poverty rate, we do have a way that we can really train our young people for these careers and be able to integrate them into the city life, city economy in a way that's very helpful for us. The other thing is we have many areas in which we're very highly ranked. We're now the #1 restaurant market. Hartford region is highly #1 in arts and culture. We need to also acknowledge the fact that we are really growing in the arts. That Hartford really has a lot of art, not just our world-class Wadsworth Athenaeum, but we have Hartford Stage, which won a Tony for Best Musical last year, Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and was nominated again this year for, I believe, 14 Tonys. Last year we were nominated, I think, for 11. We won 4. So in terms of a national profile in the arts is very high. In terms of RMP in sports, ability to maintain, let's say, a baseball stadium, soccer stadium, basketball, gymnastics, show that we are in a region that we can really use to bring more economic development, more jobs and activities to our city. So that's very important. So national profile in terms of housing, we have very competitive, a lot of available housing at very low cost. We have arts and cultural community that's thriving. We have a restaurant that's thriving. We continue to increase the number of visitors to our city. I believe that the Science Center just celebrated its 2 million visitors. That's significant. So I think that the other thing that we need to do is we need to recognize that even though Hartford has very low per capita median income, the surrounding communities as a metro region is one of the richest in the world. So the challenge is how to falsify the economy, not having a county structure any other communities and states have. We're locked into this sort of system that really needs a lot of work. And I think a lot of us mayors have begun and continue to have a conversation about changes that really need to happen in terms of our state city structure, in terms of a more statutory county or regional system that really begins to move in a different direction. And I think that that's one of the challenges, and I think that's one of the reasons our state, as a result, also suffers. Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, very small landmass, and yet we are also rely on the income tax, on the real estate tax as a way to fund our operation. And then we have a large number of tax-exempt property. So the formula is not right. Now, granted, I do agree with some of my opponents because I've been, advocating for this. We do need to advocate for better participation and better pilot program. But I think Hartford, in terms of national profile, we're still very recognized as a very important financial insurance. So we need to continue to work to but also we're living in Jackson, and a recent designation also by the U.S. Department of Commerce, Office of Economic Development, naming our state and our Hartford region a area for advanced manufacturing to take advantage of those opportunities as well. I'm gonna, it's 8 o'clock. I don't gotten through most of the questions that we've gotten. Well, this was very. If you're elected, what are your priorities your next term? And this one's a no-brainer. I've been very clear that education, jobs, and job creation, and quality of life issues that our residents expect and demand are improved. So the three priorities that absolutely are on the forefront of one. So in my campaign, we are moving forward. I want your support. I've been meeting with a lot of people in the city of Hartford, people that are not from Hartford, and people are very motivated by progress and the expansion that they see in our city. It's just not in the downtown, not just in the downtown. We're now at the point where we have developers for Westport Village, for Bowles Park, with also a new housing stock in those two neighborhoods, investing hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of continuing our efforts to revitalize our schools. I think that you're seeing a lot of opportunity in terms of National Park. We've worked very hard on Coltsville, put a lot of resources in Coltsville, looking good. They're changing the windows on the top floor, which is very exciting to see that evolve into a national park. Capewell, which has been blighted for I don't know how many years, 20, 30 years, is undergoing renovation. Hope that as a result of the promise designation, Swift Factory and the component to empower our communities to live there and to work there, create it there, will be a reality soon. So I'm very excited about Hartford. I'm an optimist. If I weren't an optimist, uh, I don't think that a lot of the things that you are starting to see materialize would have occurred. It would have been very easy for me to sit back and not do a lot of the things that I've done and make the bold decisions about downtown North, about Coltsville, about really working with the Hartford Housing Authority to move Westbrook Village and Bowles Park. Uh, but I didn't take this job to be mayoral and not get things done. We're getting things done. So if you're excited about the work that we've been doing, if you want to join our campaign, please get involved. Visit our website, www.segarra.com www.segarra2015.com. You can go to our webpage, you can sign up to be a volunteer, you can donate, and we look forward to seeing you. So let's get together, let's move, and let's take advantage of continuing to create the best capital city in America. Thank you.